Hey, hi everyone. Welcome to your show, E-Coffee with Experts. My name is Ranmay, and today we have Ronald Osborne, who is the founder of Osborne Digital Marketing with us. Welcome, Ronald, to our show.
Thanks for having me, Ranmay. Appreciate being here, mate.
Great. Ronald, before we move any forward and pick your brains, why don't you mention about your journey thus far and what Osborne Digital Marketing is all about, how you started, where are you right now, what are your core offerings, and we'll take it forward from there.
All right. So I'll try and make a long story very short. So my background is left school, wanted to be in the military. My uncle, father, special forces. So that was my aspiration. I joined the military, went in as infantry. Turned out I was good with comms equipment. So I got selected to go through a challenging course and I got involved in that. And there were 3 positions available for it, an extra $9,500 a year it paid. So very luckily, I was selected and went through. From there, I learned all about comms equipment and telecommunications equipment. So during that process, we were gearing up to go overseas. And unfortunately, I was injured. So from there, that stopped me going overseas. And the Army gave me the option of you can either discharge with benefits and we'll look after you to get into a new field, or you become a pay clerk. And I was like, get me out of here. And that's where I started to learn website development and telecommunications outside. I picked up telecommunications, was very fortunate there. I started winning some massive contracts with some of the really big telcos in Australia. I had 27 employees, multiple $1 million organization, and it was going gangbusters for years and years. And then when I slowed that down and got out of that business, I made the transition into SEO and digital marketing. So I always had a company in the background building websites, but I was making like $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month. To be honest, that was nothing at that time. What I was earning, that was pennies. So it wasn't really a focus of mine. From there, once I'd transitioned out of the telecom company though, which was called Twex, I thought, why don't I pick this up? So I picked up that venture and I started to continue with websites and SEO. So that's pretty much how I got into SEO and into the path I'm in now. And essentially what I do now is more so local SEO, but I do it a little bit differently. I work predominantly as a business consultant because it's my honest belief that with individuals, it's not enough just to get their website ranking. I want to be able to come in there and help them fine tune their sales process. I want to be able to come in there and say, we need to do this and spend money on this because it's going to make us a lot more money. And a lot of business owners don't have those concepts and they're not sometimes willing or even aware of how to improve the operations. And I love doing that stuff. So right now I do local SEO with my marketing agency, but as my consulting company as well, essentially I do everything. I step in and help organizations and I try to partner with companies. So right now I'm actually in business partnership with 9 organizations across the globe. So yeah, that's quite hectic. That's what I do, mate. It's a bit of a mess, but I enjoy it. I enjoy the chaos.
But for an ex-army man, it must be a cakewalk, I must say.
Yeah. You definitely get a lot of money to get shot at, man. Don't recommend it.
Correct. Ronald, you have taken businesses from small startups to multi-million-dollar companies with large teams. Can you walk us through strategic milestones or pivotal moments that played a crucial role in this journey, particularly when it comes to scaling up teams or departments or your organization as a whole?
For myself, it was insanely challenging. And when I had the breakthrough, I still remember the first day I hit $1 million. It was always my aspirations by the time I was 25 to make $1 million a year. And I remember the day I made $1 million, and it was honestly the most depressing moment of my life because I was on my couch alone and then I get the notification from the accountant, congratulations, Ron, you've hit that milestone of $1 million. And I was like, this sucks. There was no one around me at the time. I was all by myself. I'm like, it wasn't really all about the money. It was actually about building up a company and having an awesome set of guys, that army mentality. So what I've found when it comes to organizations is trying to scale them up. It's all about the team. You have to make sure that you have an awesome team in place, that you reward for success, and essentially you punish for failures. I think it's just human nature that we are enticed by achievement and we're a little bit fearful of failure. So you need to make sure when you are developing and creating an organization that you are serving both hands, is how I look at it. You've got to make sure that there's always a teacher-student relationship. This is something that I really talk about with a lot of small organizations that have 3 or 4 people that are just making a couple of $100,000 a year. The biggest thing is they're in a challenging spot because they need to get bigger, but they need to pull themselves out of the organization to be able to look at the whole process and the whole journey. But how do you do that when no one can do what you do as good as you? That's why the student-teacher relationship is what I call it. It's very important that during every aspect of growth, you have an individual that's essentially an understudy. So in every single position, there should be an understudy and a teacher. So it'll just be natural progression that everyone throughout the organization can move up a spot. And then you have complete and utter cohesion throughout the organization because most people understand each other's roles, especially if it's that 3 to 5 team sort of member trying to get to 15 guys. That's the best way I focus on the team.
And then you started your business without any outside help or capital. So what are the most significant challenges you faced during the early stages of starting as a bootstrapped organization? And then how did you actually overcome them and create 2 such business ventures out of it?
And that's a great question. Ones. Yeah, that's a great question. A lot of nervous nights. So when I got started...
Can imagine.
Yeah, when I got started, I think I had $8,000 left in the bank that I'd saved up through my time serving with the Army. And from there, essentially, the way I had approached it was that I wanted to make sure that I could live on pennies because I didn't know how it was going to go. I had a belief in my heart that I could make good dollars in telecom, but I didn't know. I'd never done it myself. I'd just got my vehicle. It was like me in a van. That was it. And yeah, it was quite stressful. But the first week I made $3,500 and I was like, oh, all I need to do is work hard. So I just gave up my Saturdays and Sundays. It was 6 months. That's as long as the girlfriend I had at the time could handle. She was like, no, you need to have weekends. So I started taking Tuesdays off and then still working Saturdays and Sundays because I got paid 15% more, 15 or 10% more, whatever it was back then. So I loved it, mate. I saw the opportunity. The Army taught me that there's opportunities are fleeting, so go after them. So that's what I did. And that venture, that 6 months, I had a lot of capital. Then I got 2 employees, a guy I served with in the Army and my brother. They were the first 2 employees that I had. And then it just grew from there. It was just constant. I'd turn around, there was a new contract come in. Turn around, there's another one come in. It just got bananas in the end. But that's how I took it, was honestly just through hard work and raising that money myself and trying to be very conscious of what I was spending the business capital on. So I've got no qualms with spending money. I think everyone should spend money. If you're in the business of making money, you got to spend money to make money. That's how it goes. So I do think that organizations shouldn't be frightful of that. But if you want to bootstrap yourself, you have to work your ass off. Like you have to day dot.
Absolutely can relate to that. Osborne Digital Marketing, you guys operate internationally, serving clients in United States, Australia, and the UAE. So how do you navigate these unique challenges and opportunities of working with businesses across different geographical regions? And what advice would you give to budding entrepreneurs who are looking to also spread their arms and get into an international space wherein they have clients from multiple countries?
That's a great question. It can be very challenging. Obviously, I'm back in Australia right now. It's 8:30 at night for me, and that's a game I play. So it can be very challenging working with individuals that are located in different parts of the world, but I wouldn't have it any other way because I think there will be points that you grow to as an individual that won't satisfy you, especially if you're an ambitious individual. You will still be like, what's the next thing? To me, I look at it and go, I've built a multi-million-dollar company in Australia. Australia is a tick for me. What's the next logical challenge? Can I do that outside of Australia? Can I do that around the globe? Let's give it a crack. Like I've been at it now. And it's the hardest thing, honestly. I thought telecom was hard. International is extremely challenging because what an individual in Australia would like is completely different to an American. It's actually bananas. I've lost so many American clients just from small little things that an Aussie would have never fussed over. And that was a real culture shock to me. So my advice would be, if you're definitely going to be working with individuals in different locations, like the UAE, they don't care, mate. If they find me, I can roll in there and I can say, I want $15,000 for this project. And I'll be like, fine, no worries. Okay. If I try and do that in the States, it needs to be justified to the letter. Every single thing needs to be itemized. In Australia, it's, yeah, all right, Ronnie, go for it, mate. That makes sense. So if you are going to work in different locations around the globe, make sure you understand the culture that you're operating in. So that was something that was a bit of a shock to me and the biggest hurdle I've had to overcome. The Culture Map is a great book to read that can help break down the structures, especially if your team is actually operating in different parts of the world as well. That's a very important structure, because a lot of my team, they're in the Philippines, they're in Thailand, they were in Ukraine. So you have individuals in different locations. You have to understand what motivates them and how they'll operate. So understanding different cultures is a must if you want to work internationally.
Absolutely, very well said. It goes a lot. It goes and helps you a lot in terms of not only cracking the big deals, but also delivering the appropriate solutions if you're operating in multiple regions, because an American will speak a different language when it comes to business versus an Australian and versus someone who's in the UAE or in the UK, who people are really direct and are up to the mark. So yeah, to the point rather. So yeah, very well said. You need to learn their culture in order to be successful and build a good brand size in that particular geographical territory. And in digital marketing, in fact, the world has been taken up by this storm, this AI and machine learning and automation tools, and they're gaining real prominence as we speak. What is your piece of advice to the business owners to effectively integrate automation into their marketing efforts without losing that personal touch or the human touch and authenticity that customers value?
That's a great question. That's another great question. I think automation is a must. And I think if you're not jumping on that train, you're a madman or madwoman.
Yeah.
Like you're missing out on a lot, because a big thing for me is, why not try to make your life easier? Because if you have more time, you can spend it with the kids, you can muck around with the missus, you can do whatever you want if you have more time. And that's where automation can come in. But you want to make sure you're not losing the personal touch. That's why I nowadays actually lean more towards personal branding compared to a big company type structure, because I think as we get more and more associated with AI, everyone's just going to be screaming for that personal touch. But that doesn't mean that you can't utilize automation in the background. So when someone fills out your lead form, then everything in the background is done through automation. They get sent through that sales funnel. They get pushed these emails. That type of automation, I think, is really good. Creating content, specifically supporting content, brilliant. Use automation. Like I've cut down our content expenses, thousands of dollars, because of ChatGPT. So we have, say, ChatGPT alone has realistically removed probably what you'd say maybe a couple of grand, $3,000 at least of content. Like that's gone now from the content market space. Content creators, that's gone. That's just from me alone. So use AI and automation to help create content, get more of it out there.
Absolutely. You also touched upon personal branding, which is, from an entrepreneur perspective, it is so important, right? While the big brands already have it or they have created it over a period of time, as per you, how can small business owners establish and maintain a strong personal brand online? And how does this, as per you, contribute to their overall success?
I think the best way to build a personal brand is by showing a bit of results. So I can stand there and pull out my own business, like my own business books, and be like, here, look at all those zeros behind the numbers there. I'm able to do that. And I think a lot of people get it wrong when they don't have that behind them. Specifically, I'll talk about the business coaching, consulting space right now, because there's a lot of people out there that I've even chatted to and never had a business. So I just don't understand how you can talk about trying to be a business coach when you've never even had a company. Now, I'm never going to say work with me if you want a $15 million company, because I've never had a $15 million company. So I will straight up say, I can't do that. So when it comes to an individual that is trying to brand themselves, I think the reputation is an absolute must. So you should go out there, you should build up that reputation first. And then that way your life becomes a lot easier when it comes to marketing yourself. Like this interview right now, mate, like you guys reached out to me because you've seen my stuff, you've seen my presence. That's how it works. And that's the beauty of having a solid reputation behind you. Everything just slots into place.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometime back, one of the best-selling online video tutorial for building a highly scalable digital agency was done by this bloke who never really owned a digital agency himself. All right. And he gave up all the tricks that you can think of from these online tools and stuff. And then it was one of the best-selling material at that point in time. And he rigged in millions just by putting in data which was there on the internet, and never really owned a digital agency himself. And I was like, dude, how he's gonna tell you about the operational challenges, about all those nitty-gritties that goes into the life of a agency owner or an agency ops guy. So that's how it is. You have to be really authentic in order to be selling in the long run.
Indeed.
Great. And Ronald, you are so much into SEO. So let's wrap this up with a question around SEO. SEO is always known for its long-term benefits, but it is also a field of which comes with constant algorithm updates from our search engines, right? Let's take Google, for example. So how do you develop SEO strategies at Osborne Digital that adopt to search engine algorithm changes, and what key ranking factors do you prioritize?
That's another great question. So I think it's very important that you be a part of a testing group. I hand on my heart. So I'm a part of Chris Palmer's testing group and Craig's, but Chris Palmer, good mate of mine, mate, he pushes the button when it comes to SEO testing. And I think if you want to build a successful agency, you need to understand what's going to move the needle. So as an example, for me, I'm not going to be able to perform the just sheer volume of tests that Chris is pushing out. And then when I meet him every week, I'm able to sit there and be like, oh, that doesn't work. I've been spending thousands of dollars on this a month and it doesn't work. So I think if someone's trying to stay ahead and develop awesome SEO processes and procedures, you've got to have some sort of testing. So whether that's Kyle Roof's group, what is it, Internet Marketing Gold, like you guys as well, mate. If you guys are pushing testing, try to put it out there, and people should be trying to really get in and understand what works, because like you're saying, Google changes. What was it, like maybe 8 months ago? AI content worked every time. Now, if it's not structured appropriately, she gets smacked. Correct. That's the thing. The only way you'll know that is either by a test being run or your website getting hit and you're like, what's happened? What's happened? What's gone wrong? So I definitely think it's very important to do testing, and from that testing, create your processes and procedures so your team knows what kind of links to build, what kind of content to write.
Absolutely. Ronald, while I cannot really thank you much for taking our time and doing this with us, right? But before we let you go, I really want to play a quick rapid fire with you. I hope you're game for it.
Yeah, mate. Go for it.
All right. Your favorite book?
Ooh, that's a great question. I would have to probably say Built to Sell. Built to Sell is a really good book to understand how you should go about structuring an organization, and Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Yeah, two of them there.
Okay. And your last Google search? You can check your system if you want to. This is an open book, don't worry.
I think chiropractor Mornington, because I've just landed or in the process of negotiating with a mate who's expanding his offices. So it was probably chiropractor Melbourne, Mornington Peninsula, and chiropractor. Yeah, it was one of them, man. One of them.
Okay. So let's turn the clock back. Let's go back to your army days. Your best day when you were with the army.
Oh, what a best day I was in the army.
See, the questions were easy around SEO and organizations.
Yeah, they were actually. Honestly, when I got to my unit, And I met the best day, I would have to say, was when I came, as funny as this is going to sound, when we came into the lunchroom. And I obviously, like I said before, family background in the military. So going in, I knew that they're going to give you a lot. Like the boys are going to give you a lot, and they're going to try and break you. Because they want to find out who the weak links are. If people are shooting at you, you want to know that you can rely on the guy next to you. So as soon as we went in there, and the guy started giving it to all of us. There was 4 new blokes. We've walked in there and they've just been giving it to us. And I remember the guy that was giving it to us, him and I handled it well, I would like to think. Now him and I are very good friends. Like we're best friends, absolute best friends. So I would have to say that was probably the best moment in the army when I got to go in and meet the guys for the first time and see it in action. And then what sort of transpired from that moment.
Great. Lovely story. And the last question, we will not really any further. So let's say if we were to make a movie on you, what genre would it be?
I don't know, probably comedy, man. Probably comedy. I'm Australian, bro. Is there any other type?
I thought you'll say a typical action-packed and army movie, which is full of action. And
action comedy, probably played by Adam Sandler, I reckon. Yeah.
Lovely, Ronald. Thank you so much for taking out time and doing this podcast with us. I'm sure our audiences would have benefited a lot out of what they heard from you. So appreciate your time, man.
Thanks, Ranmay. Appreciate that, mate. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.